But before we do the tech predictions, we're going to do some quick Apple news, some quick hits, hot takes. First and foremost, the iPhone 15 turned 15 over the past weekend, January 9th. Was that 2007? I think it was
Yes.
when the first iPhone launched. So this week commemorates the 15th year since then. Kind of Steve Jobs, put his English on the not only did he change the mobile communications industry, he also changed how people do events and actually release new products. So, that kind of goes hand in hand with launching the iPhone, kind of launches new age style of, how companies, manufacturers roll out new products. So you can kind of, not only can you contribute, iPhone for revolutionize smartphones, you can contribute, as Steve Jobs revolutionizing events. So we just want to
Yeah.
do a quick shout out to the iPhone. It's turns 15. It can almost drive. It's got his learner's permit.
Yep.
So,
Complete game changer. Not
yep,
only, like you
absolutely.
said, in the mobile space, but the way they do events. So pouring one out for the homie Steve Jobs for, completely changing the game.
Smartphones was a game changer as far as humanity is concerned. The internet was a game changer as far as the internet is concerned. I mean, the humanity, cars, telephones, electricity. These are like the big things that we've done in our short, time as humans on this planet. You could put the iPhone up there
Yeah.
with some of those things. We had smartphones before the iPhone. Well, we had, wireless technology, but when the iPhone came out, that kind of changed everything as far as how we use technology. So you could put the iPhone up there with cars almost,
Yeah, it
fight
changed.
me.
It changed. It changed. The way we use it, but it also changed the look of it. If you think back prior to the iPhone, everything had a physical keypad. If you remember the Blackberries, everybody click, 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 click. This completely, changed the game when it came to how you actually interact with the device. It's an on-screen capability. It's not anything that you physically you don't have like an actual physical input. The input
Right.
is on the screen. So
Yep. Yep.
it's definitely, I think it's up there with some of the greatest inventions in the world.
Yep. So absolutely. So shout out to the iPhone. The next thing up, speaking of iPhones, real quick, iOS 15.2.1 has been released like today. If you're listening to this live, it's Wednesday, but if you're listening to it on when we actually publish the show, iOS 15.2.1 announced earlier this week. Wasn't really anything major with it, with the exception of if you were having issues as it relates to sending iCloud links via messages. You were having some issues as far as photos being sent. Like if you share a photo with somebody, it shares it to them via messages as a link. You may have had some issues with that. You're having issues with CarPlay, like if you had any third-party apps, like if you listen to Pandora, if you listen to Spotify, any other non-Apple CarPlay apps, you may have had some issues as far as it not accepting inputs, like if you're touching the screen, it's not working. iOS 15.2.1 fixes that. Probably the most important out of all those is it was a HomeKit vulnerability that Apple patched, that which would allow attackers to send devices into a boot loop. So if you have HomeKit devices like I do, and somebody were to hack into my router, my home network, they could actually not really view anything, not steal any information, but just make my my products act crazy. So that was probably the one thing that I got out of this iOS 15.2.1 update that probably you might want to be the most concerned about. So if you do have a phone, you haven't been paying attention, hopefully that's what you tune into the show for, to get the lowdown on the latest Apple news. So we are giving you that. So you might want to go ahead and update to iOS 15.2.1.
Update all your devices. I think it was it an iPad update as well. I think it was
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do all
a
the
Monterey.
iOS.
They all of them.
Yeah.
So just save yourself the uncertainty and just update everything.
Yeah, once a month. Just once a
Yeah.
month, just go through and check for updates on your
Yeah.
Apple devices. Speaking of updates,
Exactly.
The Apple polishing cloth is now back in stock. That seems like a dumb story, because you would think, who cares? Apple had a polishing cloth that's an Apple branded microfiber cloth, but well, when they first announced it, immediately went out of was out of stock. So
Yeah.
obviously some people were buying it. I'm not going to get it, but
No.
if it went out of sale, out of stock so fast, and now they're getting to back to where these polishing cloths are back in stock, which they don't look any different. It's a white microfiber cloth that has the Apple logo in one of the corners. It's about the size of a rag that you would use to, wipe
Clean off your
anything down.
glasses.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Of course, Apple puts their spin on product descriptions. They call it a soft, non-abrasive material. I mean, how's that different than anything? But I guess, Apple says it must be important. So all that to say, they're back in stock. I think they were selling for $19.
19
So
bucks.
if
Yeah.
yeah, so if you're remotely interested and you're more of a snob than I am, you might want to go ahead and jump back on this because it may go back out of stock, go out of stock, very, very shortly. So you might want
And
to
I think the
definitely
only
check a
reason
look
why
at that.
it really was that big of a deal is because non-Apple people were just making a big hubbub about it. Oh my God, they're just so much. They're just doing so much. And of course, when naysayers and anti-Apple people talk about a specific product, Apple people are like, we're going to show you, we're going to buy it or
Right.
whatever. So
Right.
I think the naysayers and the anti-Apple people really kind of kicked it up a notch to get it sold out.
Right. Well, maybe one of the reasons the polishing cloth may be the reason why Apple over the holidays. I didn't talk about this in the pre-show. Apple over the holidays went over the 3 trillion mark as a value for a company. So maybe the polishing cloth
Push them over
selling
the
out like
edge.
gangbusters pushed Apple over the edge of their $3 trillion
Right.
value as a company. So speaking of Apple haters, there was a Wall Street Journal story that talks about messaging, talks specifically about Apple, and the person in the story was perplexed. I mean, not perplexed, but kind of rhetorical about why Apple is really so closed off as it relates to their ecosystem, specifically iMessage. iMessage is a iPhone, or now, if you have iCloud, connected iCloud, it is a iCloud Apple ecosystem specific thing to where if you have an iPhone, iPad, MacBook, Apple Watch, you can send and receive messages. They're end-to-end encrypted. You get emojis that give you the ability to customize your avatar, give it different emotions, give it different effects. You can get threaded messages. All the features that come with iMessage are specific to
iPhone.
iPhones, to iMessage, to anybody that connects a iCloud account to any Apple device. It's free of charge. They don't charge you anything extra. You get all these extra features. Specifically, if you're on a text message, like a group message with a group of people with iMessages have the blue bubbles versus anybody else is using SMS, or specifically Android people have the green bubbles. So that's always kind of like a war. Maybe not that serious. A
It's
war.
hateration in the dancery.
It's people in different camps. Like to big up their products
Cool
over
kids
anybody
versus
else's
not
product.
cool kids.
Yeah,
It's
right,
all
right,
that
right.
type of
All
yeah.
that type of thing. So
Yeah.
this Wall Street Journal kind of points out, Apple being a walled off garden, and them not standardizing, not adopting any other different messaging formats, kind of halts or slows down the growth of messaging platforms. Of course, there's this Google exec jumps on this Wall Street Journal story and goes as far as to say Apple is being bullies because they are not standardizing, they're not adopting any other messaging platforms. RCS is the platform that is the most standardized, and basically what that does is enables you to, whether you're using an iPhone, an Android, whether you're using chat where they're using Facebook Messenger or any sort of third-party apps, kind of standardizes some of those features that Apple people tend to take for granted because we use iPhones. Some of these other messaging platforms don't really have those features, and it's not interoperable.
Right.
So that it doesn't translate when you're using an Android or a SMS versus using an iPhone. So this Google exec jumps on Apple and says, "Oh, they're being bullies because they're not adopting messaging standards." But really, what I think it is Google has tried and failed miserably
Multiple times.
to come up with a comparable comparison or a competitor to iMessage. Now, I fully believe that if this Google exec like really could say, well, they got iMessage, but we got this, and this thing does
We
blah
got
blah 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 blah,
G-message,
whatever,
A-message, whatever you wanna call it.
G chat, whatever. If it was truly comparable to iMessage, he wouldn't be
You wouldn't
talking
hear him
about.
squat
But
about this.
they would compare and compete, but he wouldn't be like, oh, Apple's being bullies because
Let's
they're
fix
not
this as one industry.
right.
Bro, if you jealous, just say you jealous.
And not only jealous, I think they're really trying to, what is it, reverse psychology Apple
Yeah.
into adopting a more standardized thing. So they have that one less knock against Google. I'm not saying it's a knock at all. Google, Android people, you have your features that iPhone users don't. And I mean, that's different companies. Competition is good for the consumer, no matter
Right.
what side of the camp
Right.
you lie on. But if Google really, for whatever reason, can't come up with a competitor, it's like, all right, just say that. Just be like, yo, we tried. We've decided to go this route. We're going to work with the carriers to adopt this new RCS messaging service that does X, Y, and Z. We want to make sure our users have this, the best experience as possible. If you want to go other routes, there's Apple. They got iMessage, blah, 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 blah. And leave it at that. For him to try to, use codes like bullying, people are having issues.
In one industry.
Right. And try to use the bullying, because we're talking about cyberbullying, that is a big issue nowadays as it relates to mental health. For him to kind of hook in the fact
Try
that
and co-opt,
Right.
that negativity that surrounds
Exactly.
bullying, and try and put it on something as,
right.
minute as a feature on text messaging.
Right.
It's, trying to kill a fish with a shotgun.
Right.
It's
We
overkill.
see you and we see you. So
And
all
we know
that
what
to,
it is.
Right. All that to say, I don't ever see Apple being like, oh, you're right. Let's move over to RCS.
Have they
Let's
not learned
standardize.
anything from this whole epic battle? They
Right.
are not willing to relent.
Right.
So,
And again, something as
sorry,
simple as
but-
iMessage, if you're really, and I do this, if you really want to create a community, if you want to get a chat group going to where everybody has the same features, you go use WhatsApp, you use Telegram, you use Facebook Messenger, you use all these other different
You
options.
got options.
And it's not that big of a deal for the fact you calling it bullying. It's like, we see you, dog.
Right.
All right. So that was the quick hit Apple news. I'm pretty sure there was a bunch of other things that happened over the holidays, but your boy, if I'm on break, I am on break. I ain't on the computer.
break.
I may go through my social media, but I really ain't hunting.
Not
I
trying to
really
do
ain't
no
doing no work. This podcast
Not at
included.
all.
So
Break
I'm pretty
means
sure.
break.
Right. So I'm assuming a bunch of things happen. So let us know. Hit us up on social media if there's something that we missed that you thought was important. Let us know. Snob Boys Cast on all handles.